Tuesday Teaching Tip, and I'm going to talk to you today about homeschooling lasagna. What's homeschooling lasagna, you might ask? Well, just like Italian recipes of lasagna layer by layer, homeschooling lasagna works the same way. It's basically where you take the start of your homeschool year and you layer it in piece by piece. So, for instance, if you were at home and you were baking lasagna, you would start with your noodles. So for us this year, I had two, our oldest two, who were heading off to university. So that's the first layer. Trying to get my oldest two kids registered for their classes, all of the things that they'll need for their dorm, and just launching outside of mom and dad's house. That was our first layer. I have two that are still at home under our tutelage for Kitty's Freedom School. And that next layer for us, which is probably the hardest because I have a high schooler and a sixth grader. So very different schedules, very different kinds of curriculum and demands on my part for where I'll need to be plugging into each of their educations. So the second layer for them is getting the things that they need ready for their co-op classes. So what are the materials that their teachers are requiring? What kinds of books or supplies would they need for each of those classes? So that's layer number 2. So then, typically, when the kids were younger, we didn't start our school year until the Monday following Labor Day. Well, that's just around the corner. So then we layer in the third layer of our homeschooling lasagna, which is what Kitty's Freedom School needs. So for you at home, that might mean sprinkling in that first week some spelling and grammar, along with maybe a read aloud, but you haven't grafted in science or mathematics yet, or history, and that's okay. And so then the next week, we add a fourth layer, which would be for our family, whatever our family's individual schedule dictates and requires. So it might be sporting events, music practices. It could be my teenage son has a job. What's that schedule going to look like? How are we going to layer that in? And then the overall topping, which would be cheese for traditional lasagna, right, would be all the extra things you want to put on there. Maybe some garnish, some things like that. So that could be park days or field trips, figuring out different places you might want to visit, or expos, or concerts, or all those kinds of things. That would be all the pretty extra things that go on the top before you put it in the oven. Overall, a homeschool lasagna is going to look different than somebody else's homeschool lasagna. So just like grandma's recipe might be different than your best friend's Sicilian uncle's recipe, that's okay. The main part is that everybody's lasagna is complete and full and nourishing to the body, to the soul, and to the overall education of your child. So, as you're feeling overwhelmed as you start your beginning of your school year, try and remember that you don't have to start everything all on the first day. You can very much have the freedom, which is part of the grace and the gift of homeschooling anyways, to be able to just graft in layer by layer according to your schedule so that it's not so overwhelming. And by the third or fourth week, you've got everything running on a smooth machine and you're on your way to success.